In the 90s, Playmates Toys made the deepest line of Star Trek action figures in history. My name's Keith, and I'm a collector working towards owning all 284. I've been a Trek fan for almost 35 years, and most people are sick of me talking about it. But somehow I've convinced my old friend Mike to review them with me on Look at My Star Trek Toys! What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Look at My Star Trek Toys. I'm Keith. That's my buddy Mike. We are going to keep talking about Star Trek toys, specifically Playmates 4.5-inch figures. Now, of course, if you've been watching this week to week, you're like, hey, where have you guys been? We've had a couple of weeks off because of the holidays, and then some exciting travel news, and then some tech stuff, but we are back. We are excited. We have so many cool things to talk about over the next few weeks, over the next many weeks, actually. We have a bunch of cool surprises.
Keith, a little behind baseball here.
Yeah.
Initially, when we started the show, it definitely had a finite end because you only have so many toys.
I only do. Yeah.
As the best things do, this they call it feature creep, baby. And we've started to realize that there are plenty of nooks and crannies and avenues we can go down. So we're excited that there's no end in sight. So very excited about that.
No, there is not. The Look at My Star Trek Toys extended universe continues to extend. We're very excited about
on it. Paramount Plus.
Right? But honestly, we have a ton of cool stuff. We're getting all of these amazing customs and play sets. We've been sent some really cool stuff. So if you sent us some amazing stuff,
that's a soft Wii.
It's the Wii that I care about. If you've sent us stuff and you're like, hey, wait a minute, I sent you stuff like 3 weeks ago and it's not on the show, it's because we have a huge backlog and we're excited about all of it and we want to get through all of it. But today,
Keith, before you go forward.
All right.
If people wanted to either write or inquire about how to send me stuff, how would they do that?
Don't send Mike stuff.
Come on, guys. I don't have anything.
You can email us at lookatmystartrektoys@gmail.com. You can also find us on Instagram, just at Star Trek Toys. We're right there. You can people have been messaging us that way. Or you could just drop a note below here on the YouTubes, and we will be happy to hear from you and get back. It's been really the best part of this whole endeavor, has been interacting with the fine folks who also care about, this silly little toy extravaganza. So why don't we talk about what we're going to talk about today before I run out of words and my mouth stops working?
What we're going to talk about.
Let's talk about what we're going to talk about. So we are going to do a second episode on amazing custom figures based on the Playmates 4.5-inch line. And so this is number 2 of like 1,000. So these are ones I had loaded up. If you've sent me stuff recently, we're going to get to it. Don't worry. It's so exciting. But we have some really cool figures to get to today and to show all of you from the amazing artists doing this work. So why don't we just jump right in to our first toy, and let's look at number 1. This is going to be Worf wearing the Bond tuxedo. And so this is fine work from JD Ealain from JD's Customs. We have showed his work before. He has his own YouTube channels. You can find him at JD Star Trek Customs. And this is a really cool figure for a couple of different reasons. It is obviously referencing the Deep Space Nine episode, Our Man Bashir. And we actually, on our list of figures we want Playmates to make, this was actually on our list that we would like to have, because this is great. Bashir and Garrick go on this holodeck fantasy, which is sort of a James Bondian sort of type of story. And there was another reference that was made. Somebody left it on a YouTube comment that I should have remembered, but I didn't, and I'm just remembering that now. But we do it live. That's what happens. So we have here Worf as the Bond villain in his white tuxedo. So this is a really cool figure, and I think one of the most interesting things about it is you can see on the picture there that JD has been able to retain the articulation. He still has the arm and shoulder articulations there while building a completely custom molded suit on top of him. Mike?
Well, let me see how good I'm doing at this. Here's what I'm observing, Keith.
Mm-hmm.
I'm noticing that I recall, I believe, I can't remember who made it. They made that awesome Worf in spacesuit to go with Picard.
Yeah, that was JD, yeah.
Yeah, it was also JD. But in order to achieve that, he had to cut off that sweet, sweet ponytail. Not here. He was able to maintain the ponytail.
That's right.
In addition, my guess is that this is the Worf with this 6.5-inch Worf because the baldric has been removed in order to facilitate, because I believe on the 4.5 it's sculpted on, correct?
Yes. Well done. Mike, you are paying such close attention to this toy.
Can you tell I'm really into this?
So at the beginning of the show, Mike didn't know anything about these toys and very little about Star Trek. And look how far he's come. This is amazing. You are right. I would imagine that this is a torso from a different figure. Although I don't know exactly what it's based on in terms of a coat like that. So there's a lot of custom work here. JD.
The paint matches
right
so good on the hands and the face, though.
Well, I think the head and the arms are probably taken from a Worf figure and swapped out with a different torso and painted. But there's certainly no figure with a bow tie. So so a lot of that had to be custom sculpting. So really, really cool stuff. JD, just leave a note in the comments and let us know how you put this together, because it is a very interesting figure and from a very cool episode, and it's on my wish list, and here it is, which is really, really cool. So we're gonna link to everybody's Instagram and YouTube tags or whatever in the comments below, so you can check out more.
JD, I don't wish it upon you, but I feel like you would be very successful in prison. All you need is a soldering iron and some plastic, and you could really fashion yourself a hell of a shiv.
That's not a comment I was expecting to come out of you, but folks, if you want to make a shiv out of your Playmates 4.5-inch figure, I think maybe Mike is the person to go to.
See, you got all these cool, sweet, sweet toys sent to you in the mail. Now what I'm going to get is homemade fashioned weapons.
It's going to be a toothbrush that can kill you.
A prison arsenal. Honey, what are you getting shipped to the house? It's a joke that went awry. It's a joke that went awry.
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Yeah, just brush your teeth. All right. Well, all right. So let us continue with our next figure. And this is a Kevin Leigh creation. Let's take a look at it. It is a Kazon from Living Witness on Voyager. This is a cool figure. Kevin Leigh is an artist who actually helped supply some of the pictures of the figures we did last week, but this is starting to get into some of his specific work. So Living Witness is an amazing episode of Star Trek Voyager. This was another episode we wanted to see reflected in our wish list for Playmates, but this figure wasn't specifically part of it, but it was an episode that took place, I think, 500 or 5,000 years after Voyager, and we were hearing the tale of Voyager told through time and not necessarily told accurately. So we saw sort of the alternative evil version of our cast, including having a Kazon crew member, which of course they never did. So this is part of the inaccuracy of this retelling of the Voyager story. But it's a very cool figure here, because Kevin not only picked this episode, but basically picked an extra from this episode to represent here. And you can see that it looks like it's the Kazon head from the Kazon figure molded onto a Voyager body with a custom paint, including the black gloves and the lack of rank insignia or communicator. It looks really cool, Mike.
So I'm trying to see here. Sorry if I get a little. So yeah, he did paint over. I think I see an insignia there on the. It would be our right on the screen.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
The communicator, and I bet he shaved it off
Yeah,
and then painted over it because those are sculpted into it.
Now, if I recall, when we saw the Kazon, the actual figure, it was on the cheesy side, right? We didn't really love it.
It wasn't great. I mean, it was. The Kazons themselves are a little, goofy. But I think this is a much cooler.
That's what I was going to say. It's
figure,
interesting to me because this is so badass. Like, I want this figure. There's always something about black gloves on figures that really make them look cool. I'm thinking to the Dick Tracy line, Playmates, and I always love the figures with gloves on because it just makes them look, a little bit sneaky, a little underhanded. Looks cool, badass here. I love the paint job. I would have this figure gladly.
Oh yeah, definitely. No, and you're right. The black gloves as the representation of evil, I think, has been one of the go-tos on sci-fi and also in real life. When if your soldiers and the commanders wear black gloves, you're probably not on the good guys. Just keep that in mind in real life. But anyway, so Kevin Leigh's information we're going to put down below. We're going to see a lot more of his work today, but we will, if you were looking for more of his work and how to contact his YouTube, he does a lot of sketches and short films and indies on YouTube, which you will be able to click on the link below. He's also an actor and producer, so some really cool stuff here. Oh, we get here's a side view of the figure from Kevin there. So now we're gonna go into like a sub episode of this episode because from our friend Kevin and another one coming up, we are going to fill in a hole in Playmates figures, and which was certainly one of the things that we talked about in the wish list, and one of the most egregious holes in the Playmates line, and that is the rest of the original cast wearing their red Star Trek Wrath of Khan uniforms, which for some reason Playmates didn't put out. I'm sure they're waiting for a box set, but don't worry, we have the answers to this because these have been made. Let us go to our next one. Let's take a look at McCoy. Also done here by Kevin Leigh.
That's good.
With a head swap and a repaint. Some really, really excellent work. This is, of course, DeForest Kelley. So I'm assuming this is a head swap from one of McCoy's other figures onto either the Chekhov or the Kirk body made for the First Contact line. Done here. It's really, really interesting because the head swap. Actually, you know what? While we're talking about head swaps, I have a video to plug. I'm also going to put it below here. But we got a great recommendation from Vance at No Budget Productions, who did some of the customs on our previous episode. He did a YouTube video on how he swaps out the heads for these figures. And it includes dipping them in boiling water to soften up the plastic, popping out the head, and when you put the other head in, he trims the edges. Anyway, it's really fascinating, and I now all right, that is sort of doable. I was thinking that was nearly impossible, but Vance has got it figured out, as do many other folks here. So link in our description below, and go check out No Budget Productions video on how he swaps out heads. I'm sure there are other techniques, right down below. Let us know, how do you swap the heads? Mike's, any feelings here about this here figure?
Love it. I still love that head sculpt. The eyes are, very distinctive, so I dig that. I love the...
They're piercing. I feel like it's looking into my soul.
Yeah. It feels right. I think that, yes, you want to have a complete collection, but there are certain staples, and we mentioned this in the previous show. The original cast in that uniform, it should be all of them, because if you're going to display and, dropping a spoiler for a future episode coming up, you want to have the whole team, right? Not just a few of them. You need to have the whole team, or it just doesn't work. So
that's right.
Well done. This is the kind of custom that I think I would do to fill in those holes.
Yeah, no, for sure. And so continuing in the tradition, when we showed the figures from the actual Playmates line, with these. I wanted to give my favorite movie memory for each of these characters. And so, hey, you know what? Here we are. We got the figure. Let's do it. So my favorite Dr. McCoy from the movies is going to be a controversial one. So prepare yourself, folks. I really thought DeForest Kelley did some tremendous acting in Star Trek V, the most critically reviled of the movies, but he has a sort of like memory hallucination scene where he deals with the traumatic memory, and I thought DeForest Kelley knocked it out of the park. So I actually really liked that moment for Dr. McCoy, even if, you know, people have different feelings about that movie. But I was like, wow, I was not expecting that little moment there. So that was my favorite McCoy moment. Do you have one that you remember?
I don't, but I figured, but let's use this opportunity since everyone's been so kind to me and I'm just learning and I'm starting on a different journey late in life. Can you explain to me why his nickname is Bones?
Well, it's a reference to doctors back in the day. I believe it's a Civil War era thing. We're called sawbones because that's the medicine at that point. They didn't really have much they could do if you got shot in the leg other than to saw your leg off. So it's kind of grim. But I believe it is a reference to being called the Sawbones.
All right. Well, there you have it.
If I'm wrong, which there's always an excellent chance of it, I'm absolutely certain somebody will correct me on the comments below. So I look forward to that. If there are any alternate theories as to where that nickname came from. All right, so let us continue on this line. We have seen Dr. McCoy. Let's see Sulu, shall we?
Yeah.
He is another Kevin Lee production. Here is Sulu from the Star Trek movies. I think it probably built a similar way, but you'll notice that the custom paint he did around of the collar and the sleeve and the shoulder there each has the correct coloring of the rank insignia and the division that he is on, with a I'm assuming that's a head from the one of the other series. Again, completes the idea. I think it's really really excellent. Any thoughts, Mike?
It's great. Well done, Kevin.
It's a simple fix, although not simple getting that paint job, the level of detail it takes to get that paint correct, both the color correct, because the colors they use are not your typical pack of 5 paints colors. So a lot of really fine detail work there. But just a head swap out, but really cool. And so my favorite Sulu moment from the movies, of course, this is the George Takei Sulu, of course, is commanding his own ship in Star Trek VI, which was really cool to see. It's funny with these movies, and you have these characters who have been in Starfleet for 40 some odd years at this point, and because you want to keep them all in the same ship, you want to keep them all together, which means nobody can get promoted and nobody moves on. So everybody has the rank of captain or admiral, but they're all sort of on the ship, and they have to come up with various reasons to get them there. But I really liked the progression of the character to actually give Sulu his ship and let that be a part of the movie and use that in the storytelling. I think Star Trek VI is an excellent movie. One of the better Star Trek movies for sure. Also, the first one I saw in the theaters, if you're counting at home, and that and I think we mentioned in a previous episode, but that ship and that moment was actually integrated into a Voyager episode, including guest work by George Takei. So, and I believe at that point they were possibly considering a Captain Sulu TV series, which I would have been there for. Anyway, so great Sulu figure, also from Kevin Lee. Let us continue.
Should be mentioned, if you don't follow George Takei on Twitter, what's wrong with you? He's one of the best.
He's too much fun. Too much fun. All right, so let's take a look at another giant hole in the line, and then, of course, Spock. Can you believe they never made a Spock in the movie series uniforms? It's crazy. it really came down to which of the actors were willing to cameo in Star Trek Generations. And so that was your punishment for not being willing to cameo in Star Trek Generations. They didn't make a figure of you. But luckily, this is my favorite one. So Kevin supplied the pictures of this. Kevin created these or owns these, but he picked it up from eBay. So the artist who created this is unknown. So we have the artist is eBay. I have several from eBay's collections here on my list, but we have it obviously I would think it's probably the Kirk body because he's already in the command division. But the head, I believe, because you show some age there, is from the Next Generation era Spock figure they did from Unification Part 1 and 2 with, I don't know, I'd have to go back and check the figure whether or not there's a repaint there to take out some of the gray in his hair or whether that's how it was. But you can see there some of the really cool paint effects. And I don't know if that's Playmates or this custom figure with the Vulcan sort of blue eyeshadow that you see in the picture there is actually reflected on the figure. So really cool on the details on the art. Very cool. So favorite Spock moment, obviously, it's the end of Wrath of Khan. It's the death scene at the end of Wrath of Khan. You will be and always will be my friend, or have been. I just ruined the line, and that's going to be a problem. But it's such a great moment. There's a lot of great Spock moments in the movie series. And
I'll mention, Keith, in this moment, I've been sort of on my own personal Shatner-essence. I was so fascinated when Shatner went to space. On Amazon, Jeff Bezos produced a 45-minute documentary on Shatner going into space, which is a phenomenal watch. You should check it out. And that led me to watching a bunch of Shatner interviews, and it's funny. I only knew Shatner because I wasn't huge into Trek. I only knew him a little bit from Boston Legal and a little bit just from the kind of caricature he became of himself. And I didn't recognize until this recent deep dive I've been doing sort of how profound he is. Some of his spoken word stuff was actually really great. And his philosophical explanations at this point in his life, especially having ventured into space and such, is really kind of awesome. And what I also find beautiful, and I'm not sure if I mentioned it on the show before, his love and friendship with Leonard Nimoy, bonded in just sort of the kind of explosion of Trek and Trek lore, but also just this personal relationship they had is really beautiful. And so that's what I'll mention here in my few seconds. Yeah,
no, it's been one of the more interesting friendships on and off camera out there, which is also
is this
cool.
Figure. I'm glad the artist is unknown. This figure is so has such an uncanny resemblance to not a family member, I'll say, who happens to be an old woman, is absolutely just tickles me pink. It looks exactly like this family member, and I cannot wait to show them this.
Are you related to Mike? Maybe do you look like Leonard Nimoy as a Vulcan? That's who you're talking about. So yes. Mike's family who was watching this, just start wondering, is he talking about me? I don't know. That's hilarious. All right, well, let us move forward and take a look at the last of our main cast members. Let's look at Uhura. So this is another Kevin Leigh production, and another hole in the line, and a very interesting figure. Finally representing Nichelle Nichols as Uhura from the Star Trek movie series here. So this figure has to be either the Savick, or I guess it could be a Janeway body. That I would assume it's a Savick, but having to paint it and swap the head. I always thought this is an interesting part of the conundrum with customizing, because a lot of the custom figures, you want to use a body that matches it very well. And actually, in Vance's video, he's popping the head off of a Riker figure of the 4.5 First Contact era figures, which were the Target exclusive. They're hard to get and they're kind of expensive. And if you want to do a custom there, you have to sort of destroy a not inexpensive figure, which is an interesting part of the customization process, because you have to sacrifice a figure in order to get it, and they're not all cheap and easy to get. And of course, I think this head is probably from the Star Trek 1 figure, and swapped out there. Again, really fine work. I'm envious of Kevin's completed line of these figures here. So, favorite moment for Uhura, I think, for me, is when she helped setting up stealing the Enterprise in Star Trek 3, which was really fun. I always thought that she didn't get nearly enough to do in all of the movies, and would have liked to have more moments with Nichelle and Uhura. But she does have at least one good, fun moment in every movie series. All right, so we are going to continue in this idea, in this world, but we are going to a new artist we have not talked through yet, doing unbelievably good work. And this is going to be a figure of Valeris. Here is Lieutenant Valeris here, from Retro Star Trek Customs, Chris at Retro Star Trek Customs. And this is
a great photo too. Well done.
It is a great photo, and this is the Kim Cattrall performance here pre-Sex in the City.
No, so she could show up for this, but she can't show up for the reboot. It's just terrible.
I don't think she was welcome.
Oh.
Anyway, so this figure, Mike doesn't really know what went into this figure, because he doesn't know what's in the line and what's not in the line.
Looks great though. Looks that I would have guessed came off the shelf.
Well, because this is not a customized figure. This is an entirely original figure.
3D printed?
3D printed,
wow.
Digitally sculpted and 3D printed in the style and scale of. So this isn't a head that exists anywhere else. This is not a body that exists anywhere else. This is a completely original 3D sculpted.
Oh my God.
And
how do I get
printed.
me? Can you 3D sculpt me?
Probably. Well, we might have something. We might have a figure coming our way at some point. But
ahead, I'm giving you the scan. Look.
So this is crazy,
awesome.
and we have
incredible.
We're probably gonna do an entire episode on Chris's work at some point. But while you're at it, just find him on Instagram at Star Trek Customs _ between the. It's on the do the thing on the screen. But there's an incredibly deep and sophisticated line of work. So he
awesome.
told me that these are 3D. So he sculpts them digitally, then they're 3D printed in resin, then he paints them. Because he has to hand paint, because the color doesn't come out 3D printed. He has to paint these things by hand and sealed in a polyurethane matte varnish. This is professional work. Like, this is just
Absolutely.
like flat out.
Could you? I would love. Does he have? And if he does or doesn't, maybe consider. I'd love to see sort of a time lapse of this product. Like, how long does the print take? How long? I mean, the sculpt. Forget the 3D sculpt. That's art, right? That is an artist at work. But I'm just curious as to the technical logistics. How long does the print take? What type of? It must be an industrial 3D printer, or is this? Can you do this in one of those ones you buy on off the shelf? What's this? I need to know.
I don't know. We have so many questions, as well as like the fine detail on the paintwork.
The paintwork is excellent
like,
too. Yeah.
that's just not with a brush. I don't know what's happening there, but it's really, really remarkable. So this is just a tease because we're gonna get into a great deal more in that world.
This
and
is
you'll
one of those
notice
scenarios too where, no disrespect to Kim, the figure is 100% cooler, more badass than the production shot we see on the left.
Oh yes, to Kim Cattrall, right?
Yeah.
Yes, no, and it's it's really it's very, very cool. And I'm my questions are about the construction and articulation, because obviously in this figure there aren't the sort of like elbow and shoulder articulations, but you do have, it looks like you have arm articulation and head articulation. How do you do any of it? It's all mystery to me.
They're all separate pieces, right? They all have to be separately printed.
They're separate pieces that he has to assemble separately. Anyway,
God bless.
Unbelievably cool. Unbelievably cool. So we have one more unbelievably cool figure to show you, and that is McDuff from Conundrum. Let's take a look.
What?
Look at that.
Yo, that is awesome.
So it's not just McDuff from Conundrum. It's McDuff getting his ass phasered, exposing his alien underneath.
What?
I mean, talk about a one of a kind. What is right?
How do you even begin that?
I don't know. I have no idea how you would do that. So this is supplied by Kevin Leigh, and the artist is Robert Rostad. And this was an episode of The Next Generation, where it was a really cool episode where an alien species that needed to use the ship for a war flashed everybody's memory. They don't know anything, so they have to figure out like who's in charge. They don't even know what the ranking insignia means. So there's a really funny runner with like Worf must be in charge because he's got the baldric. He's the most decorated. But they insert this Commander McDuff, who they don't know isn't supposed to be there, to influence them to go and attack their enemies in the ship. And of course, at the finale, he's phasered, revealing this alien. And of course, the actor playing McDuff was Eric Anderson. Not Broadway's Eric Anderson, but Star Trek's Eric Anderson. And anyway, I don't even know where to begin on how this was sculpted and painted. But
is there a McDuff figure?
No. So this figure, it might be a Riker. Or I don't even know what figure that started with, because of the wide stance. Looks like it could be a Worf body, but there's no baldric. I have so many questions on how this was built.
Did they just like build some up around the exposure, or did they cut in? It's so cool.
It's really, really cool. Yeah, I don't know if they built in or cut out. But the illusion, if they built out, the illusion of it being cut in is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
It's
baby.
It's the Terminator effect,
mm-hmm.
right? When you have the appliances on, it looks like you're cutting into it, but it's over. But it's what an unbelievably cool figure that is, and I would assume that is a one of a kind, because there's no way to mass produce that unless you're literally printing a figure.
That's just so cool. I'm gonna blow up the whole world here. So I can't. I don't think I can. Let me see. Nope. I was gonna try to make it bigger, but in this particular setup, I cannot.
We're not gonna push our luck today. We're not gonna push our luck. But unbelievable work from Robert Rostad. Robert, if you ever happen to see this, because I know this sort of came to us through a third point, I'd be really curious to see how you did that. So email us at lookatmystartrektoys or leave a comment below. So look, diving into the customs, so much fun, so cool. The variety of figures and techniques and ideas and creativity is astounding. And we are literally just beginning to scratch the surface. We have a ton of stuff coming.
Yeah, we'll do a lot more. Obviously, we're going to get back to looking at Keith's figures proper. We're going to look at displays because we're going to branch out there. We're going to look at, we got a whole bunch of ideas. So don't think that just because we're bouncing off the customs or that we just focused on a few specific people that we haven't gotten items from many other people. We've got plenty to come, so stick with us.
Seriously, it's been really fun to become a part of this community. So we're gonna wrap it up here and move on. But I just want to tease coming up, due to the generosity of a good new friend,
A benefactor, would you say?
Benefactor, I would say at this point, a benefactor. We are going to have some ships and models that we will be not only unboxing, but assembling for the first time ever. So we're going to be on camera here. We're going to set up 3 cameras, and we're going to put some of these together and share the whole experience with you, which I'm very excited to do.
Oh, Keith, I do hope that I'm going to make a request on air in front of all of our friends.
Uh-oh.
When we get to those episodes, I want you to keep our little logo up there, but scratch out the look at and put play with.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. All right, folks, we will see you back next week. Till then, this has been
Look at my Star Trek toys!
Thank you for watching KME Entertainment. If you enjoyed our particular brand of nonsense, please like and subscribe.